episode 2 of It Was Written, the project. So my very first video, or I call them episodes, whatever, I don't know. But the very first one launched last week, Wednesday, and hopefully you had an opportunity to join me for that. If you did not, I put a link to it down in the description box. So if you were here for my premiere, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your support and welcome back. What's up? So I realized I forgot to introduce myself in that video. Such an amateur. Before I get into this video and this whole journey of telling my story, I should probably first introduce myself, right? So my name is Asia Mac, if you're nasty. So I think I want to start this episode by sharing with you guys a third word that I've self-proclaimed for quite some time now. So your third word is the word that we use after I am. For example, my name is Asia and I am a wanderer. Wow, this is already like questionable, but yes, I do consider myself a wanderer, and I know our, I ams are extremely important. I believe that they are extremely important and impactful, and by the end of this journey, this project, I declare that my third word is going to be something far more profound and prolific even than wanderer. But if I'm being fully candid, that is my truth. It's something that I sort of struggled with for a while now, to be honest. I don't believe that it's a forever thing, and I pray that it's not a much longer thing, but it is a thing. By wanderer, I simply mean that I drift a lot. I am not settled, and I haven't been settled in a long time, so I tend to drift. In search of self, in search of purpose, in search of home, to be honest. I'm obviously not proud of my nomadic behavior. It has been my time in the wilderness that's actually brought me to this point that kind of like sparked the idea of this project. So if anyone has ever been in complete and utter limbo, like life limbo, then you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say my time in the wilderness. Being in this place or this position, I found that there's only one of two things you can really do. You ready? You can either work or you can rest. So the quote at the beginning of this video, actually wrote that in early 2015, and looking back at the entry, I was actually talking about resting in, so the bar that I used to work at in the Bronx, I used to be the shift picker upper in that thing, okay? I used to just work shift after shift after shift. I would work like 12 days straight, have one day off, and then go back to work. So obviously it was like depleting and taxing on me. And so I was talking about rest in that regard, but I thought that it was like so fitting for this episode, and I wanted to talk a little bit about resting naturally versus spiritually. I say that when you're in the wilderness or in a space of limbo or uncertainty, there's one of two things that you can do. You can either work or you can rest. And I've spent pretty much the entire time in my wilderness, because everybody's wilderness is different, it looks differently, but I spent the majority of the time in my wilderness working, which is likely why I've been wandering for so long. My greatest prayer for the past few years has been to successfully navigate myself out of the wilderness, out of the unknown, to stop wandering and to finally rest, to be settled. I would actively pray for this guys. I would ask for direction in this, but still find myself trying to figure out how to do it on my own. I desired rest. I was praying for rest, but then in the same breath, I would be like, all right, so what I gotta do? Negro, rest. Like, in retrospect, hindsight, in retrospect, you guys can comment below the proper usage of the word. I'm sure you're smarter than me. But looking back, it's very much so like a duh moment for me now. I mean, I was moving and shaking and legitimately going nowhere. There was a time where I was going from job to job to job to job. It's embarrassing, but I was, and it's just like, you know, how you gonna rest and you're constantly moving? So if you think about it in the natural, right? If I tell you that I'm resting, you will probably literally picture me like not doing much, just at peace or in a place of ease. But spiritually, for me anyway, I don't know why that concept is so difficult. Like, baby girl, rest is rest is rest is rest. And keep in mind that by resting, I don't mean inactivity. I mean resting, that not budging, that place of peace, content even. Resting in who I am, my true identity, resting in what I'm doing, my purpose, and resting in where I'm going, which is home at the end of the day, literally and figuratively. When it comes down to it, I want to end my day and I want to end my journey, you know, where my heart is, where love is, where I'm free, where there's joy, where there's peace, in a resting place. And to me, that equates to home. And you know, Luther already explained the difference between a house and a home for anyone that's confused about what I'm saying right now. This project for me is actually an act of surrender. It's funny how life works. It's funny how God works, right? I've recently been put in a position where all of my options have been exhausted. Everything I used to do and everything that used to work for me just stopped working, and, you know, placed in a position where I had no other choice but to literally, you know, say uncle. I had to submit. It was just, you know, made clear to me that I will probably never find my way out of the wilderness, or I'll be here for a lot longer than I have to be if I continue to navigate this on my own. I'm learning that being in a place of rest is likely the most powerful position you can be in. It wasn't until I was forced to stop, forced to rest, forced to surrender that I began to hear God more clearly. It was actually in that initial place of, okay, God, what do you want me to do, that the idea for this project came along. I mean, you would literally think that I just pulled this idea out of thin air, the way that it so randomly, the vision so randomly and clearly came to me. That's a whole story for another episode. But to all my wanderers, this episode is specifically for you. Mark my words, God will plant new things in the wilderness for you if you trust him, if you seek him. He will cause barren places to be fruitful and literally transform your wilderness to become a place of rest. Get before him and ask him what he wants you to do. Trust me, if you don't know by now, your navigation system is obsolete. Till next time, guys.